I am Jo An Sensei. Nice to see everyone this morning. Let me get out of this view of myself and see you all. And let me just scroll a page here. Look at you, so many. Uh, really nice to see everyone. And this morning, I would normally, I think we've all gotten into the habit of saying it's nice to sit with you both live and online. And I was very much looking forward to sitting with folks live today here in New Paltz. And yesterday I went up to the Zendo. It's just up the driveway. It's a separate building, a small little sort of cabin. And I walked in having turned the heat on the night prior. And I went, wow, that heat never worked. It's really cold in here. And apparently had run out of heat. So while you may see me online with a fire roaring in our fireplace and it looks very cozy, it doesn't offer enough warmth for sitting. And so there was a little bit of a smell of propane in the space too. So I had to call the folks to make sure, since the tank was totally empty, that I can get it filled up. So, sometimes we're walking along our path and a curveball gets tossed to us. So a special apology to Concho. Thank you for serving as Eno today. He drove all the way here yesterday to sit Zazen Kai with me, but I had not discovered that we were heatless until his arrival. So my apologies, Concho. But regardless, it's a joy to come together and sit together in this way, whether it is virtual or live. And yesterday, Fusho Hoshi mentioned in her talk that today is our Lunar New Year and the year of the rabbit, and that the rabbit is to act as a harbinger for hope and luck in this new year. And I think we could all do with a little bit of that. So may it be so. Bring it on, universe. Please, I think we're all ready for that. I am always amazed, when we come together, whether virtual or live, and sit silently together at sort of the miracle that is this practice. When we come together and we support each other in this way, and we're supporting each other in our individual practice of the way, in our individual sort of seeking out of a path or of a road, but we're doing it together. So in one sense, it may appear that we're creating all these many roads to a destination, and yet there's really only one road to travel. The vehicle of our awakening is not, parked somewhere else. It's not a train waiting to pull into the station or a flight that's been canceled because of bad weather. It's right here. It's happening in this breath, in this body, in this breath, in this body, right now, where we are, where our sits bones are meeting the chair or the cushion that we're on. That's where the vehicle is. So I've been thinking a lot about travel lately. It's sort of been something in the forefront of my mind. My husband, Scott, and I have not had a good vacation in quite some time. So we've been looking at options for that. So I've been thinking about that travel. And I've had a lot of driving of late from place to place. Nothing too demanding, but I'm driving around a bit and getting from one destination to another. And it's really made me think about how do we navigate our path? How do we determine how we're going to go from one place to another place? And what happens if we find out about dangers ahead, or we need to seek an alternative route because we've become stuck somewhere? And so in my car, I have this old school Garmin. It's probably not the best, but in my parents' car, they had, AAA atlases that were on the floor of the back seat and local maps shoved into the glove compartment. And while we may not have come to practice to get a fancy GPS, we likely have shown up seeking some guidance, looking for some help along the way, some direction. And we can find that, I think, certainly in the treasure of Sangha, in each other, and our teachers in our community as well can offer sort of guidance as a GPS system for us, a global positioning system. Where are you? I see where you are, echoing back to us where we are. And can serve perhaps if we've fallen away or off the path, as it were, stumbled a bit. They can serve to bring us back. So my Garmin, the one in my car that's suction cupped up against the window, is old. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles. It mispronounces things terribly. I can't do things like give it an Australian accent or a British accent. I can't do all that. It's sort of got this robotic voice that mispronounces things, has all the numbers of exits incorrect, no matter what I upload, with new information. It's still, gathered information from the 70s, I think, in regards to 87 and the highways that surround me. But it still works. I can figure out what it means and I can get from place to place. And my husband, however, has been encouraging us to get rid of this old dinosaur of a GPS system and use Waze, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. I'm a bit of a Luddite, but it's so much better. We should use this. We should get rid of this Garmin and we should use Waze. And his argument being that it is updating in real time as drivers are traveling along or people are following the path, as it were. In real time, they're saying there was congestion up ahead. It was difficult for me to get from point A to point B here. Be advised. And I find it kind of amazing that, car driver Sangha is assisting car driver Sangha to get from one place to another. And it's amazing, this help happening right now in real time. And I was like, okay, that's a good argument. That's helpful. And so the other day we were driving together and I had the Garmin on. We were going somewhere and he opened Waze simultaneously. And so I felt justified in my crotchety old man, nothing needs to, change status, because they were in agreement. We were on the right path, regardless of which app we were using. So I was self-righteous. I said, see, we don't need anything new. What we've got is great. And maybe 10 minutes later, he said, you need to slow down. There's police up ahead. And I said, how do you know this? He said, well, you Luddite, when people report congestion or a traffic jam or an accident, they can also report that there's a police officer up ahead or stadies tucked out in the bushes. And I went, oh, and I had to think, well, how do I feel about that? What are my thoughts on that? I'm not sure it's my job, and maybe it's the teacher role now, but, just as another human being to help you avoid a snare of that nature. Maybe if I stop you from being caught, you might continue to speed. Maybe you will continue to drive recklessly. And perhaps you need to get pulled over and, be told you're not doing what we've all agreed to do. You're doing something other than that. So is it ethically right for me to inform a criminal that there's police in the area and they should behave less criminally? There's this ingrained, and perhaps this shines too much of a light on my youth, but this ingrained sort of feeling that if there's police in the area, I should let you know. And that probably arises from, my get out of jail free cards that I somehow managed to get in my youth, probably because of the color of my skin and a whole bunch of other reasons. I snuck away from repercussions of less than unlawful behaviors or less than lawful behaviors on multiple times. So I feel like I have this karmic debt when I see someone doing something nefarious and I know they could get in trouble to say, you should behave yourselves. There's police around the corner. But, it really did bring up a moral dilemma for me in a sense, albeit a small one. I wondered what's most skillful here. So in our Zen practice, our morality is not dictated to us. It's not cut and dry. We have our precepts and other ethical and moral teachings, but they're for us to bring into our hearts and to determine how we practice in the world. So the inform police button created this moral quandary for me. Is it right? Is it right to act as someone's radar detector to inform you that the popo's up ahead? Or should you and I follow the precepts we took when we got our driver's licenses, the Vinaya, the Kai of the road? Should we just all be doing that? And perhaps an and but about this is perhaps hitting the cops up ahead button helps slow down the whole flow of traffic for everyone, regardless of how they're behaving. Perhaps it gives us an opportunity to just all slow down. So I was on 87 the other day. I think I was traveling from Kingston back to New Paltz, a drive I do lots of times, didn't need to have the Garmin on. And I was in the passing lane, probably going too fast. I'm not sitting here telling you that I drive 65 all the time. Far from it. I'm sure I was going too fast, and I suddenly noticed that the traffic was slowing with no real meaningful reason. And it dawned on me, oh, somebody has seen police up ahead, or perhaps people are using their Waze app and the whole highway is now aware that there's a police officer up ahead and we've just all slowed. And sure enough, about a quarter of a mile or a half mile up ahead, tucked off in the bushes to the side of an underpass, was a police officer, waiting to pull someone over. And I thought, well, thanks, that was great. That was good news. And we all slowed down. We all took a breath and drove a little more appropriately as a group. So maybe, maybe the button, it works, and if this medicine works, why should I resist it? Why should I have some sort of moral idea about how it should be administered or not administered? It worked to slow us all down. And I thought if I take to using Waze, if that becomes my new car GPS, maybe I'll occasionally just, reach up and hit the button, whether there's police there or not. Maybe that just is like our breath, a moment to reset. And I can do that for everyone on the road. Maybe it's skillful. Maybe it's a way of helping someone get out of the rut they might be stuck in. Reminder to someone who forgot momentarily the Vinaya of the road, the Kai of how we drive. It's just hey, wake up, drive the right way. So in our book, our text that we're studying for this Ango on the sayings of Layman Pang, there's a little story, a short one that I thought speaks to this somewhat. And it's called Helping Someone Up. Once when the layman was on his way to sell bamboo baskets, he stumbled and fell while crossing over a bridge. When Ling Chao saw this, she came to her father's side and fell on the ground next to him. The layman said, "What are you doing?" And Ling Chao said, "I saw you had fallen, so I came to lend you a hand." The layman said, "But who can see what there is to take hold of?" Sometimes I think the best help we can offer is just listening and not offering any advice at all, not creating a relationship of one up or one down, the hand reaching down to the person who needs pulling up. not creating a space that is laden with have and have not, but to just say, I have fallen too, and lay right down next to that which has fallen. For me, that's often been some of the clearest guidance in my life. Not in any words offered, but in the act of creating a space where I was not alone in my experience. Not diminished by someone's sharing, I too am like this, but just in the act of laying right down next to me and saying, I know this. I am by your side. I am laying next to you. And it's, whether our falling down was accidental or we've ended up in the ditch inadvertently, by our actions. It's such a beautiful exchange. I believe, the literature around the Pang family really brings the daughter to the forefront. She's the brains of the operation. I can't help but love her. Every time she speaks, she's always offering the clearest sort of teaching. And I think there's a profound teaching in laying down next to that which has fallen. So it's this beautiful Dharma dialogue between father and daughter. And there's a deep teaching as well. It's not just the falling down, but, answered by Layman Pang himself saying, there's nothing to take hold of. So I don't understand the intricate workings of GPS. I don't really know how it works on a deep level. I kind of understand that there's a signal being sent out and there's a signal being received, and they bounce back and reflect each other. And depending on how many satellites are floating around, how many things are bearing witness, if you will, to where you are, it can be more accurate. So if there are 2 or 3 satellites, apparently GPS can give you sort of a 2-dimensional idea of where you are on the road. If there's more satellites, it can even give you altitude. It can really clue you into exactly where you are. And it seems like a very new technology to me. I know it's been around for a bit, but it still feels new to me. But perhaps it's not that new. I wonder if Ling Chao's action of throwing herself just down next to her father was indeed acting as GPS. Here is her father who sent out a clear signal, and she echoes it back immediately in the moment, right then and there, letting him know that she sees where he is. And he, in return, knows where she is in their dialogue. So, signal meeting signal. Self-selfing self, perhaps we might say. And perhaps the hand we offer to someone when they have fallen isn't just helping that person when we do this, we may help more people when we see that no one has fallen and that there is no one to help the fallen. And indeed, there's nothing to take hold of at all. When we're in that space, then I think we can act with true agency. We can really offer help if we are there. We then ourselves become GPS, I think. And the hand that is serving becomes invisible, if you will, much like the signal traveling through the air, and the hands that it serves become infinite. So there's this Japanese story, an old Japanese story that I had forgotten about, but I kind of came across it again, about the rabbit and the moon. So being that it's Lunar New Year and it's the year of the rabbit, I thought I might share this story. And in the southern hemispheres, apparently, most everyone sees a rabbit in the moon. And I didn't really realize that. I guess in the northern hemispheres, we have stories about the man on the moon and what you see, in the topography of the full moon. But in the southern hemispheres, uh, South American cultures, I guess, have this experience of describing a rabbit in the moon, and the same is true in many Asian cultures. And there's a story about how the rabbit got there. So I'm going to share that with you. And I guess it changes a bit. There's different animals that are involved depending on what translation or who you're reading in terms of their story about this. But in essence, the story goes like this. The man in the moon decided to come down to Earth one day because he was hungry. He needed something to eat. And he came across a fox and a monkey and a rabbit. And so he told them, I'm very hungry and I need something to eat. And the monkey climbed up into the trees and gathered some fruit and brought down, tons of fruit for this man on the moon. Maybe the man on the moon is perhaps GPS. Maybe we can think of him that way. And the fox ran off to the stream and got a fish and brought the fish back for the man on the moon. And the rabbit looked around, but all the rabbit could do was gather grass. And he thought, this isn't enough. So he said to the man, make a fire. Why don't you make a fire? And the man made a nice fire, and the rabbit threw himself on it and gave him his whole body to the man on the moon to eat. And he was so touched by the rabbit's complete offering, the rabbit's complete throwing himself down next to him, if you will, next to his hunger and saying, I too understand, I'm here with you. That he gathered the rabbit up and took the rabbit with him back to the moon. And they live there on the moon now. And the rabbit apparently is pounding rice on the moon to make mochi. And so it's all okay. It turned out okay for the rabbit. He's making us sweets now. So when I think about making ourselves intimate with this, the story of the rabbit is really dramatic. It's a dramatic, giving up your entire life to do that. But isn't it what Ling Chao did with her father when she threw herself down next to him in an effort to help, just aligned herself entirely with his stumble, no separation from it at all. And it reminds me of bowing. Enkyo Roshi always is talking about just put your head down, just bow, just bring yourself down to that which has fallen, at the same level of that which has fallen. And to make that kind of sacrifice, when we do that, then who can see what there is to take hold of? I think when we make ourselves intimate with suffering of the other, like the rabbit did, or like when Ling Chao did with her father, Lei Menpeng, when we throw ourselves down in recognition of no separation, it's in that place that, and only in that place, I think, that we can really be of true service. If we were to see the selfing self, as it's described in Bendoa, the wholehearted way by Dogen, then there's really only one direction that our GPS can offer. And that way, must be yours. It's you. And it must be wholehearted. And so I think I'd like to end with just a part of our famous chant, the Sandokai, and remind you what it says there. Do not judge by any standards. If you do not see the way, you do not see it even as you walk on it. When you walk the way, it is not near, it is not far. If you are deluded, you are mountains and rivers away from it. I respectfully say to those who wish to be enlightened, do not waste your time by night or day.